what happened when this young lady got ejected from a WNBA game the other day for a flagrant foul on Sophie Cunningham? Did y'all see that? She got ejected from the game for that flagrant foul right there. And I'll be damned if that wasn't a flagrant two. She mugged her. Damn near came across like decapitating her, for crying out loud. That was definitely a hard foul. Make no mistake about it. Nobody can argue about it. You can say what you want. We know what we saw. No way around it. The DJonai Carrington foul was clearly unnecessary. It was a flagrant foul penalty too. It was absolutely positively correct call. It was called the flagrant two. That's a flagrant two every single damn time in the NBA. And
this just goes to show that DJonai has no self-awareness in what's going on. DJonai Carrington runs on threads immediately. White privilege at Indiana Fever. White privilege. You running around with blonde hair. It looked like you trying to be white. It looked like you trying to be a white girl. What are you talking about, white privilege? The white girl just got a technical foul for something she didn't even do. What are you talking about, white privilege, bro? This is why she should be banned from the league. They always run.
DJonai Carrington is looking around the room like, oh my God, I've never been in this much fire. I mean, it's getting so bad that now her endorsements are potentially about to pull out on representing DJonai Carrington. It states here, Reebok is reportedly dropping their endorsement for DJonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham. Let's go.
DJonai Carrington's situation escalated far beyond the original play, and much of that escalation came from what happened after the game. What could have remained a controversial but relatively short-lived discussion about a hard foul quickly became a much bigger story once Carrington's own actions and public responses entered the picture. This isn't simply a case of blaming officials or claiming the league was deliberately coming after her. The initial incident was already controversial, but controversy doesn't automatically become a career-defining moment. The real turning point came in the hours and days that followed, when social media posts, reactions, and attempts to explain the situation kept the story alive. Instead of disappearing after the next news cycle, the incident continued gaining momentum. And that's what made the entire situation so damaging. The foul started the conversation, but everything that happened afterward gave the controversy a life of its own.
Some sort of bizarre PR strategy to attract eyeballs, or is the WNBA fundamentally broken?
No. That's you because you're a good person trying to find some kind of rational reason for doing this other than what it is. It's pure and simple racism and hate. They're mad that the best player in the league is a heterosexual white woman. Let's just be honest. She's not one of the confidants in their creed. And so therefore it's been a concentrated effort to go after her. Even her head coach doesn't stand by. So, and I think it's hilarious, and at the same time, they don't know what a woman is. And I'm very proud of Freedom and the other gentlemen for finding out who they are. And I wish them the best. And hopefully the league will, since it's an all tolerant league and their head coaches wear shirts about trans women count. Well, here's two. And I hope they give them their opportunity. And the young lady in France as well. So I think it's a league that has got away with being racist and disgusting to people, and now they're Americans are smart to it. So hopefully they get some of their own, but I wouldn't let my dog.
The game took a dramatic turn late in the opening quarter when Chicago and Indiana were battling in a nationally televised matchup. Cunningham broke ahead in transition with a clear lane to the basket, appearing to have a straightforward chance at an easy finish. But Carrington chased the play from behind and made heavy contact around Cunningham's head and neck area, sending her down hard. The officials immediately took another look at the sequence, and after reviewing the replay, they upgraded the ruling to a flagrant 2. That classification is reserved for contact officials determined to be unnecessary and excessive, and it also carries an automatic ejection. Carrington was sent to the locker room, ending her night before the game had even reached the end of the first quarter. As Carrington walked away from the court, the cameras captured her reaction, and it was clear the moment had already become something much bigger than a routine defensive play. What happened next would turn the foul itself into only the beginning of the story.
Carrington tweeted out white privilege from the locker room of a game that she was playing in. Get this, she fouled Sophie Cunningham hard. Sophie Cunningham, obviously a white person, fouls her hard. Flagrant 2, gets ejected, goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now here's the kicker to me. A flagrant 2 has to be contact that can lead to an injury that looks excessive. DJonai, it was about as excessive as possible. If there was any evidence of there being white privilege,
I would actually say that this is black privilege, to be totally honest with you, because her posting this white racist comment right after assaulting Sophie Cunningham on the court is actually black privilege, because she knows the WNBA won't do a single thing of significance about it. And imagine if the roles were reversed. If Sophie made a comment similar to this, then she'd likely never play again. And actually, we just saw this from Coach Sandy Brondello. She got disciplined for making, I believe, a pretty innocent, maybe, offhand comment about talking about Angel Reese and saying that she's a protected species. She was suspended and disciplined. And I think if that's the standard.
That was the moment Carrington had an opportunity to control the narrative, and instead, she made a decision that pushed the controversy in an entirely different direction. Only minutes after leaving the court, she took the situation to social media and posted the words, "white privilege," while directly tagging the Fever. There was no immediate explanation attached to the message, leaving fans to interpret the meaning on their own. Because the incident had already involved Cunningham, whose name had previously been part of separate and highly sensitive discussions surrounding women's sports, the post quickly attracted even more attention. Carrington then posted the date of the next Sky Fever meeting along with a smiling emoji. To many viewers, that second post made the situation look less like an impulsive comment and more like a deliberate signal that the rivalry was far from over. Whatever Carrington intended, the posts ensured that the conversation would continue long after the original foul had ended.
But if we are paying attention to what DJonai Carrington did to Sophie Cunningham, it was not a race-based decision. And to call that a white privilege-based foul is to completely undermine the term of white privilege and to also completely ignore the rules in basketball. You hit her in the head, you drew blood, you didn't connect with the ball at all whatsoever. So to me, it was just very ignorant and to some degree asinine by DJonai Carrington to suggest that that call was based on white privilege. Have we seen examples of white players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. Have we seen examples of black players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. There was no white privilege involved in that specific call. DJonai
posted white privilege after getting tossed from the game, but says it wasn't about the foul. Can you explain this?
No, I can't. When she tweeted white privilege, she did it so quickly, it was almost as though she had the phone in her pocket after this foul and she got ejected. So, I mean, to say she wasn't referring to this play or getting kicked out and saying that the only reason she got kicked out and it got upgraded is because Sophie Cunningham is white is crazy. It was a crazy thing to tweet, maybe crazier than to try to act like it had nothing to do with the play. So I have no idea what she's talking about. I don't think anybody can have any idea what she's talking about.
The bigger issue was the message the post created almost immediately. Carrington had just been ejected from a nationally televised game, and rather than stepping away from the situation and allowing emotions to settle, she posted a phrase carrying significant cultural and political weight without explaining what she meant. That left viewers to fill in the blanks themselves. In the days that followed, Carrington offered different explanations for the post, but the initial interpretation had already taken hold. To many people watching from the outside, it appeared as though she was connecting her ejection or the officiating decision to race. That is a serious implication, especially when it is made publicly without context. Once a statement like that reaches millions of people, later explanations can change how the audience understands it, but they cannot completely erase the first impression. And in Carrington's case, that initial post became the foundation for a controversy that kept growing with every new explanation.
For the rest of the season counts, and the fact that she let her hate and her ego cost the game for her entire team is so toxic. It goes to show that she has very little respect for her teammates because they all work their absolute asses off. They've all got something to prove. They know that, they started the season with all this hype. They didn't kick it off very strong. And so they have all been working their asses off, coming together, playing patiently. When I say patiently, they've been playing patiently, learning how to actually run the court together. There's a lot of new pieces. There's been some injuries. There's been people returning from injury. There's been a lot of changes. The fact that they were just on the rise, and as a Fever fan, I can say they were actually schooling us in the first quarter. Like they came back when we were up 8 points. DJonai herself was balling out. And she just cost the game for her teammates.
The post quickly escaped the boundaries of ordinary basketball debate. Within hours, the conversation online had shifted away from the foul itself and toward much heavier questions about race, intent, and what Carrington was actually trying to communicate with those words. That change in focus dramatically altered the story. Instead of discussing whether the contact deserved a flagrant 2 and an ejection, people were now debating whether Carrington had effectively accused the officials, and potentially the league itself, of racial bias without providing any evidence to support that interpretation. The controversy continued spreading beyond social media as national sports coverage and morning talk shows picked up the story. By that point, the original play was almost becoming secondary. The debate was no longer simply about what happened on the basketball court, it had turned into a much broader argument over Carrington's message, the meaning behind it, and the consequences of making such a statement in the middle of an already heated situation.
My God, it's getting real. It is getting very much real. For in the field, for them pockets. That's what I like to see. Pockets getting hit hard, bro. Hard. Because somebody need to hold these players accountable for the stupidity they have been putting out. Because it has been a lot of stupidity. And to add even more insult to injury, thousands of people are calling for Reebok to drop their endorsement for DJonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham. Now this was from earlier this morning.
The backlash eventually gained a much bigger platform when former NFL player and media personality Emmanuel Acho addressed Carrington's post on his show. Acho argued that the play was difficult to interpret as anything other than a serious defensive mistake, pointing out that Cunningham was struck in the head, was bleeding, and that Carrington never made contact with the ball. He described the decision to connect that particular foul to white privilege as ignorant and, in his words, asinine. That criticism carried more weight because it was coming from an established sports media figure rather than an anonymous account online. Acho wasn't simply reacting in a comment section, he was discussing Carrington's judgment on a public platform with a large audience. Once those comments began circulating, they gave the controversy another major talking point. Carrington then responded directly on X, attempting to push back against Acho's interpretation. She argued that she had never claimed the foul itself was the result of white privilege and accused him of making that connection on his own. She also challenged his ability to understand her argument, referencing his background in psychology, while emphasizing her own education and insisting that she would not casually use such a serious phrase without a reason, but the response created another problem. Instead of simply explaining what she meant when she originally posted the phrase, Carrington mixed clarification with a direct attack on her critic. That made her position harder for some people to understand, because she appeared to reject the interpretation while simultaneously defending the language she had chosen. At that point, the controversy had developed into two separate stories. The first was the flagrant 2 and everything surrounding the foul. The second was Carrington's reaction to the criticism that followed. For viewers who were willing to give her the benefit of the doubt after the original incident, the exchange with Acho became another reason to question how she was handling the situation. What might have been resolved with a straightforward explanation instead became another public argument, keeping the controversy alive and giving critics even more material to debate.
DJonai Carrington, after getting thrown out of the game for her ridiculous foul on Sophie Cunningham, went to social media and claimed white privilege. To do that, Emmanuel Acho basically pushed back and said you can't call everything white privilege, it undercuts the idea so many have talked about. And then DJonai went to X and responded to Emmanuel Acho. He said, I never once claimed that the assessment of the foul was white privilege. That was your assumption. Try exercising your critical thinking skills. I know you studied psych. Furthermore, I'm the last thing from ignorant or asinine when it comes to speaking on white privilege. Do your research on that one. Actually went to school, one of the top universities, might I add, to educate myself on this exact subject. I would never use that term as a rhetorical weapon, knowing the historical and social weight it holds without having the proper evidence to substantiate it. So, in your face, Annual. What I want to know is, then why were you posting white privilege in the locker room immediately after being ejected? What were you? Randomly sitting in the locker room having just been ejected, thinking about when you posted white privilege, and by the way, tagged the Indiana Fever.
About black privilege for a second. Doing something completely wrong and unethical, and instead of taking responsibility, pulls out the race card and acts like a victim. Yeah, that's what we just witnessed here. The sheer lack of accountability on DJonai's end, that was so intentional. Look at DJonai staring at Sophie's head the whole time, and look at her reaction after. That's anger. A normal reaction would be to ask if Sophie was okay or immediately apologize. But instead, she shoves her. The audacity to go and cry wolf and pull out the fake victim card and scream white privilege, all the while making Sophie Cunningham bleed as a result to her actions. People are tired of everything being blamed on race. I wouldn't be surprised if DJonai did this in response to Sophie Cunningham coming out vocally in response to protecting women in women's sports. This was not white privilege. Under DJonai's definition of white privilege, here's some more white privilege. Getting ejected from the game was called consequences to actions, and DJonai should be thankful that an ejection is all that happened.
2 days later, Carrington faced reporters again before Chicago's matchup with Seattle, and her explanation took yet another turn. This time, she described the contact itself as unfortunate rather than deliberate, suggesting that returning from a foot injury had affected her timing and contributed to how the play unfolded. But when the question shifted back to her controversial social media post, the answer remained much less specific. Carrington said she had already communicated with people who had the authority to make the changes she wanted, but she never clearly explained what those changes were, who exactly she had spoken with, or what her original white privilege post was intended to mean, that left the public trying to piece together a story that seemed to keep changing. First, the foul was presented as part of the intensity of competitive basketball. Then came the controversial post, followed by the argument that the phrase had been misunderstood. Now Carrington was describing the foul as unintentional while still leaving the meaning behind the original post largely unexplained, and that inconsistency became a problem of its own. The more Carrington attempted to clarify the situation, the more unanswered questions seemed to appear. What began as one controversial play had now become a credibility issue, because reporters, fans, and anyone following the story were still waiting for one clear, consistent explanation of what she meant and why she posted it.
Be held accountable just like any other damn race. And I'm telling you right now, she need to be held accountable. So Reebok, stick it to her. Stick it to her. Because what she did was ruined a brand deal like no other. She ain't even all that on the basketball court anyways. Common sense would have told you not to clothesline Sophie Cunningham from hell. Because you want to know why? The backlash you're going to get from that decision will affect your pockets. And I'm so happy that these brands are now seeing what we've been seeing. A whole lot of BS going on from these players. And I'm telling you right now, more players need to lose brand deals when they do stupidity, especially
that she needs to go to jail immediately.
You would have to believe it's going to be
no pass, go straight to jail. This is assault, right? This is assault. Now let me tell you something. This is assault. She needs to go to jail. Premeditated. Go to jail. Go to jail. She needs to be arrested. Go to jail. I want her in jail. I want her in jail. She should never touch her. Nah, can't do it. All right, we already know the WNBA is in a position right now. You need to make an example of that Don Imus. That Don Imus needs to be made an example of. That Don Imus needs to be made an example of. She needs to go to jail for assaulting Miss Cunningham. She needs to go to jail immediately.